So this is a really messed up situation. My mom, 52F, got diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer about a year ago. It was really aggressive and the doctors didn't give her very long to live. We tried chemo and radiation but it didn't really help much. My dad, 54M, was pretty devastated by the diagnosis, as we all were. He took a leave from work to take care of my mom full-time at home with some in-home nursing help. That's when this nurse Jane, 28F, started coming over frequently. At first, I didn't think much of it because, she was just doing her job taking care of my mom. But after a few months I started noticing weird vibes between her and my dad. Like they seemed a little too friendly, if that makes sense. Lots of lingering looks and physical contact that didn't seem totally professional. One day I stopped by unexpectedly and saw them hugging really tightly in the kitchen in a way that didn't seem platonic at all. I should have said something right then and there, but I didn't want to accuse my dad of anything without proof. And my mom's health was declining so rapidly that I didn't want to cause her any extra stress. A couple weeks later, I went over to my parents' house late at night because I was worried about my mom. And when I got there, Jane's car was parked outside. I let myself in quietly and heard noises coming from my dad's bedroom. You can probably guess what those noises were. I felt sick to my stomach realizing my dad was cheating on my literally dying mother with her home nurse of all people. How could he do something so cruel and selfish? My mom was such a kind, loving woman who didn't deserve that betrayal in the worst moment of her life. Part of me wanted to barge in and confront them both right then. But I knew that would devastate my poor mom to find out about the affair while she was so ill. So I didn't say anything. For her sake, I bottled it all up. My mom passed away 3 months ago after a year-long battle with cancer. I'm still heartbroken over losing her. She was my best friend and the kindest person I knew. Watching her suffer through such an awful illness was traumatic. I have so much anger towards the cancer that took her from us too soon. But I also have a ton of rage toward my dad and Jane. Because just a couple weeks after my sweet mom's funeral, my dad announced that he and Jane are in a relationship and planning to get married soon. He acted like it was some great love story when the reality is he carried on an affair with her while my mom lay dying. Jane is being pretty smug about the whole thing too, like she won my dad as some kind of prize. And get this, she's leaving her job as a nurse because, according to my dad, we'll have everything we need with my money and her son can finally have the family he deserves. Are you kidding me? So she was basically a scheming homewrecker looking for a meal ticket this whole time. My dad expects me to be supportive because your mother is gone and I've found happiness again. But honestly, F them both. My dad betrayed my dying mom in her final months, and Jane is a terrible person who helped him do it for her own selfish interests. I don't think I can ever forgive either of them. I've gone no contact for now because every time I see or talk to them, I get angrier. My dad and Jane keep insisting I need to be understanding and let the past go since my mom didn't know. But in my mind, their affair has forever tarnished my wonderful mother's memory and our family. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to accept my dad's new relationship under these awful circumstances? I feel like I have every right to be furious with them both. But they're acting like I'm the jerk for not being supportive. What do you think? Update 1. Thanks for all your responses on my original post. The overwhelming agreement seems to be that I'm NTA for being furious at my dad and Jane over their affair while my mom was dying. Reading through the comments, a lot of you really understand that my situation is so messed up. I'm still struggling with a ton of anger, sadness and feelings of betrayal towards them both. After posting here, I talked things over with my boyfriend Mike, 30M. I filled him in on all the details of catching my dad and Jane together before my mom passed. Mike was absolutely disgusted that they carried on an affair under those circumstances. He said there's no coming back from that level of deception toward a dying spouse. Mike's own mom died of breast cancer a few years ago, so he could empathize with how traumatizing it was for me to watch my mom suffer and then find out about my dad's cheating at literally the worst possible time. He agreed that learning about their affair so soon after her death has permanently tarnished all the good memories I have of my mom's final days and our grieving process as a family. Mike said he doesn't know if he could ever forgive his own dad if he pulled something like this while his mom was dying. So he completely validated my decision to cut off my dad and Jane for the time being because he doesn't think he'd be able to resist lashing out at them in anger right now either. He felt so awful for me that he encouraged me to try having an honest conversation with my dad one last time before writing him off for good. Mike said if my dad is still unashamed and shacking up with Jane, then washing my hands of both of them might be the healthiest option for my own healing. So I mustered up the courage to go over to my dad's house a couple days later. When I arrived, Jane answered the door looking totally pleased with herself as usual. I brushed past her and found my dad in the living room unpacking Jane's son's toys and belongings like one big happy family. It made me feel sick. I asked to speak to my dad alone, and Jane said with a smirk, "Don't worry, you can say anything in front of me now." My dad just chuckled awkwardly and said Jane was going to be his wife soon so she shouldn't be left out. That pissed me off even more. I laid it all out for my dad. I told him how a few months before Mom died, I caught him and Jane practically groping each other in the kitchen. And how I heard them going at it in his bedroom the night I came over worried about Mom's condition. I asked him point blank, were they having an affair while Mom was dying? Did he truly love and respect her at all after being married for 30+ years? Because it sure as hell didn't seem like it from where I was standing. My dad turned bright red and couldn't even look me in the eye at first. He just kept sputtering, insisting it wasn't that simple and saying I don't understand how unhappy he was near the end of my mom's illness. Eventually he broke down crying and admitted that yes, he had been intimately involved with Jane for the last 6 months or so of mom's life. He said he knew it was wrong but my mom was already suffering so much that he didn't want to hurt her more by leaving. So he just carried on with Jane in secret, lying to my mom and the rest of us. He claimed that being my mom's full-time caregiver as she grew sicker and more frail was incredibly traumatic for him. And that Jane made him feel alive again at a really low point when my mom seemed to have already checked out mentally and emotionally due to the illness. He said Jane understood him in a way my mom hadn't for years leading up to the cancer diagnosis. According to my dad, as awful as it sounds, the affair with Jane was his way of clinging to some last bit of meaning and humanity as he lost the love of his life to a horrible disease. And Jane had a kid around my age, so she could relate to how hard it was for him watching his own wife deteriorate while their adult daughter looked on helplessly. He said Jane gave him the emotional support he desperately needed during that nightmare. I'll admit, hearing my dad's perspective did make me understand a tiny bit where he was coming from mentally and emotionally. But it didn't excuse his actions at all in my mind. If he was that miserable being a caregiver, he should have demanded more help or resources, not selfishly cheat behind my dying mother's back. I told him that as hurt and overwhelmed as he was, Mom never deserved that ultimate form of spousal betrayal while she fought for her life. He owed it to her and our family to at least try marriage counseling or something before taking up with another woman. Stepping out on her like that with her own nurse while she wasted away was honestly one of the cruelest things I can imagine doing to your supposed loved one. After I told my dad I'd walk away with a clear conscience rather than accept his relationship with Jane, he got very angry. He stood up and scolded me that how could I have the audacity to judge him. I responded that I was judging his choice to commit adultery against Mom in her final months. It was cruel, selfish and unforgivable in my eyes. I can't respect a person who would do that to their spouse, period. My dad started blackmailing me emotionally by saying that I had no idea what he went through, watching my mother waste away for over a year. The emotional torture of seeing the love of his life reduced to a hollow shell of themselves. As he spoke, Jane put her hand on his shoulder in a gesture of support. My dad kept yelling at me saying that it was Jane who understood his pain. I replied to him by saying that how could he find peace by utterly disrespecting Mom and destroying her final days with dignity. My dad looked rudely told me that Jane was my world now. She was the woman he loved whether I liked it or not. He bluntly told me that if I can't accept that then he didn't consider me his daughter anymore. I was stunned into silence for a moment, unable to believe he would go quite that far. I pleaded with him not to say that. I may never forgive what he did, but he was still my father. I didn't want to lose him forever over this. He then told me to better make my peace with Jane being his wife and this being our family now. After my dad's explosive outburst about the anguish he went through watching Mom deteriorate, I just felt numb. Part of me ached for the profound trauma he seemed to have buried during her illness. But I was also disturbed by the anger he showed while unleashing all that suppressed pain. I just shook my head slowly and left without another word. I needed space to process the emotional chaos of that confrontation. Update 2. Later that night, my boyfriend Mike came over after I sent him a vague text about things getting intense with my dad. I broke down crying while recounting every ugly detail of our heated exchange. Mike just held me, letting me get it all out. Mike agreed with me that my dad having an affair with Mom's nurse, then lashing out at me for being angry about it, was unacceptable. He said, "Look, I feel for the guy suffering, I really do. Going through something that dark definitely changes a person. But it doesn't give him a free pass to utterly betray your mom like that behind her back. Cheating is still cheating, regardless of circumstances." Over the next few days, I went back and forth on whether I should seek outside support in confronting my dad about his delusional mindset. Maybe hearing perspectives from others in our family would make him realize how far he'd strayed into emotional wasteland? I ended up reaching out to my Uncle John, Mom's younger brother. He lived out of state but we were still close. I filled him in on everything, the affair, Dad shacking up with Jane right after Mom's funeral, his nuclear meltdown about her abandoning him, etc. Uncle John was horrified and furious on my behalf. He launched into a trademark rant about what a reckless, selfish piece of shit my dad was for carrying on an affair with a side piece while Mom wasted away fighting for her life. He said if he were me, there's no way he could ever look at my dad again without immense disgust. Uncle John then stated the obvious, that if my dad felt so abandoned by Mom's illness, he should have divorced her honorably first before hooking up with that scheming nurse who took advantage of a grieving elderly man for money. According to him, Dad's choices were wrong and Jane was absolute trash. Period. I felt relieved that Uncle John validated my feelings about the situation being unforgivable, at least on a fundamental level. But when I asked if he wanted to reach out to my dad as another family voice of reason, he was extremely reluctant. "Han, you know how your dad operates, his stubbornness has always been his greatest character flaw," Uncle John said. "He made up his mind to betray your poor mother in her darkest hour because she was the one who checked out emotionally or whatever excuse he's spewing." Uncle John continued, "If I try reasoning with him, he'll either blow me off completely or attack me. You know how he gets, that ego of his won't allow any other perspective to penetrate." I had to admit Uncle John was right. My dad had always been stubborn to the point of illogical self-righteousness whenever he dug his heels in on an issue, especially in recent years. If he truly mistook himself into thinking this affair/relationship storyline was some profound rebirth for him, I could definitely see him dismissing any disapprovals against him. With a defeated sigh, I asked Uncle John if he at least wanted to reach out as a supportive family member, seeing as how I'd considered going no contact with Dad for my own mental health. But he was completely disinterested. I could hear the hint of angry tears in Uncle John's voice as he concluded, "Your mom didn't deserve to fight terminal cancer under the crushing betrayal cloud. And you didn't deserve to have your grieving disrupted by your own father's depraved side fling, with the only upside being you clearly take after her side of the family more than his." Those words stung, but they also clarified that getting extended family perspectives wouldn't sway my dad whatsoever. Everyone else was too disgusted by his actions to even try reasoning with him. They were content to let the relationship collapse. From there, I also talked to my mom's two childhood best friends who were like aunts to me growing up. Both were mortified upon hearing details of my dad's affair and furious he would do something so cruel in my mom's final months. Like Uncle John, they insisted there was no justification for that level of betrayal in the face of a terminally ill spouse. They refused to give my dad's mindset any benefit of the doubt, insisting he was just indulging his selfish tendencies as per usual when times got tough. Ultimately, both aunts stated, "Sorry honey, but your daddy's dead to us after that heartless act of treachery against your poor mother's memory. He'll get no sympathy or reason from this side." Now I understood that no one was interested in extending empathy or wisdom to guide him back toward rationality. When I told about all my failed attempts to recruit a united family front, my boyfriend Mike simply stated, "Babe, they're not wrong for feeling that way about your dad's choices. He kind of made this bed for himself with no one else's input." Mike shrugged sympathetically. "Maybe it's time to stop seeking outside validation and just make peace with whatever personal boundary you need to enforce going forward." The more I thought about it, the more I realized Mike was right. Any other attempts to bring family into the fight would only outrage my father. And if I'm being honest, their disgust was justifiable to an extent. He had made wildly unethical personal choices while prioritizing his own emotional needs over being a husband. So after exhausting all other perspectives, I decided the healthiest path forward was to disengage from the situation entirely for my own mental well-being. I could no longer be a viewpoint trying to justify, argue or rationalize my dad's skewed moral perspective on everything that transpired. He'd chosen the relationship he wanted to cling to, and it was no longer my place to fight that misguided choice. I sent one final text to my dad, simply saying, "I don't approve of your affair decisions, but I can't control the situation anymore. If this is the reality you choose to accept, there's nothing more I can say beyond wishing you peace and happiness. But I need to walk away to protect my own heart and mind from the unresolved trauma of Mom's final months. Please don't make further attempts to justify Jane's role to me, as it will only continue this cycle of suffering. I'm letting go and hope you can too." Remarkably, my dad didn't try to fight me or suck me back into another emotional argument over the text. He simply replied, "I hear you. Take care of yourself." That was it. And just like that, the years of goodwill, trust, and family solidarity seemingly broke for good between my dad and I, all because of a chosen circumstance that forever stained the most intimate, vulnerable, and heartbreaking chapters of our lives. So that's where I'm at now. Just, numb, accepting the imperfect reality where the man I've loved and respected for decades as an upstanding father crumbled before my eyes. And all I can do is continue focusing on my own journey. My dad chose to forcefully reject my role in protecting Mom's final honesty when he opted for secret passion over his marital fidelity.